Our longtime buddy Bob Stauffer, Edmonton Oilers color man from 630 CHED, the host of Oilers Now. Bob, happy holidays, my man. Happy New Year. How are you?
Not bad. I mean, all things considered, Rod, it is what it is right now, right? You try to make the best of every situation. So I know there's a lot of Oilers fans in the province of Saskatchewan. It's great to be on your show.
Is there ever? And I forever have said this is an Oilers province. It might be becoming a Golden Knights province, but for now, I still believe it's Oilers. Look, I've been reading a lot of coverage out of Edmonton. It seems like the city's getting kind of swept up in World Juniors, despite the fact nobody can get into the barn. Have I read that right? They're pretty excited about the tourney?
Yes and no, I would say. I was there actually in the barn yesterday. I mean, there is non-bubble media seating, kind of like there was for the Stanley Cup final. To be honest with you, and you know how much of a battle it is to get buildings put together. There was a lot of work done by the Cates Group to make that happen. And for me, just going up the elevator to the 5th floor to where they had the media located, it was just sad not seeing people there because it's such a unifying event, right? Like during the course of the NHL season, you have the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton's got a healthy rivalry with Vancouver. Winnipeg's a great fan base. But when it comes to Team Canada, everybody cheers for Canada. And it's something, frankly, that TSN's maximized. It really becomes sort of a very pro-Canadian and Canadian-centric broadcast, and TSN's helped drive and make the World Juniors a bigger deal. But I got to tell you, when you're driving downtown last night at 3:20 to get in the building for a 4:00 game, it was Deadsville. So, we're feeling it here. The province is in total lockdown as we speak, and I personally thought, Rod, it's a little bit sad. Obviously, Edmonton and Red Deer get it next year, and hopefully we get close to being back to some form of semblance of normalcy, and we can truly enjoy it because it is a special event. You guys hosted it. I'm just thinking the year. I think it was 2010.
2010 and 91. 2010 and 91. Yep.
Right. So John Slaney and then John Carlson. Right. Those were the big goal scorers in those events. So. You guys know how special it is there. And I think because Saskatchewan doesn't have an NHL team, in many ways, I think and you've got the junior teams that have been there forever. I mean, just case in point today. Today is a star-crossed day in the history of the Canadian sporting landscape. Back in 1981, Wayne Gretzky 50 and 39. And on this date in 1986, we had the Swift Current, bus accident. And that's something that, just as the incident with Humboldt a couple of years ago, I think it touched everybody. One of my best friends was on that bus. It's Ian Herbers, who's the head coach of the Alberta Golden Bears and was the Oilers' assistant. He's never publicly spoken about that incident. So where I'm going with this is hockey is such a unifying thing in this country. In Edmonton, it is, the Oilers are unequivocally the biggest story all the time, just as in Saskatchewan. I would suggest to you that the Riders are the biggest story all the time. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but then it might be Hockey Canada, and Team Canada of the World Juniors and events like that, and then the respective NHL teams. So it's a big deal, but not what it should have been, and that's just the reality of 2020.
Yeah, well, I can't believe how many people are stoked here for the World Juniors, and I have a feeling that it is Canada-wide for sure. But listen, Bob, for $1 million, I couldn't have told you who finished the highest in the Canadian standings last year. For $1 million, I couldn't have. But you would know it was the Edmonton Oilers, right? Point total in the regular season last year. Right. So coming back, why is nobody saying they're the favorite? Why are they all saying it's the Leafs?
I do think there's a Toronto-centric nature to how sports is covered in this country. In fairness, I got to tell you, I think the Leafs just ran up against the wrong teams especially in the 18 and 19 playoffs, Rod. Like they played Boston, and if Nazem Kadri doesn't take himself out of both those series, they maybe win. But you know what? When it comes to Edmonton versus Toronto, the Kadri trade changed the complexion of the makeup because Kadri was a little bit in the Oilers' heads. I actually think Edmonton's a deeper team than they were last year. It's ironic that the Oilers said that good for you for pointing out highest points percentage. The Oilers were also the second best defensive team. The only team out of the Canadian teams that was better defensively was Winnipeg, and they had the Vezina Trophy winner. Like Connor Hellebuck had an unbelievable year. A year, man, that I'm not convinced he's going to be able to replicate. So, you know what? I think it's wide open, but I do think Edmonton Rod should be considered a top three candidate to win the North Division. I realize people say, well, Stauffer, you work for the Oilers. And I'm just looking at the map. I know what Edmonton did last year. I know how different of a team Edmonton was after Yamamoto was recalled and the Oilers split up McDavid and Draisaitl and put them on their own lines. Ken Holland has added significant depth at forward. Yeah, they'll miss Clefbaum a bit, but they signed Tyson Barrie. He's going to go in Clefbaum's spot on the power play. And then they just brought in another veteran defenseman that was pretty good against the Oilers last year in the playoff series, Slater Cuckoo. One of the things that happened here, Rod, I mean, you get how this works. You only forget you only remember your last game. There might have been years that the Riders were, 12-6, 13-5. They had good years, but I can think back to 89 with the Eskimos. As you know, I did Eskimo games for years as a support guy behind the scenes a bit. And I can remember when they were, I think, 16-2 in 89, and Saskatchewan came in, and every third play, Dan Rasovich was on the ice faking an injury because they were trying to slow down the Eskimos' hurry-up offense at that time, right under Pops Joe Farragelli. And it worked, and the Riders pulled off this mammoth upset. So I think one of the reasons Rod Edmonton isn't thought of more highly is because they did crash out early in the play-in series. And I don't know about you, but how hard do you judge a team that hasn't played for 4 months? You know what I mean? Like, how do you, and then plays 4 games in 7 days and outplays Chicago in 3 of them, but it's hockey. And in hockey, you can outshoot teams 45-27, 28. You can lose those games. I did Alberta Golden Bears games for 13 years. They won 6 national titles, and the 3 best teams they had never won. Just because of one game, anything can happen. And in a best of 5 series, come on, man, anything can happen. And it happened to Pittsburgh, and it happened to the Oilers.
Yes, for sure. Viewer Jennifer Illingworth says, I'm sporting my Oiler jersey today. Go Oil. It is an insanely rabid fan base, and I respect it so much despite the troubles that they've been through. But, Bob, let me say this. There were so many people on Leon and Connor after they lost to the Chicago in the play-in. Those guys were playing their hearts out. They weren't the problem, in my opinion. Obviously, I watched every game. You were there. They need more from everybody else. And my question to you is, what did they learn as a team losing to the Blackhawks in that series?
Well, Rod, I 100% agree with your perspective. And, I'm going to go I remember when Edmonton lost to LA in 82, 48 points ahead of the Kings in the regular season. The Oilers had 7 future Hall of Famers on that team. They lost 3 games at home in front of real fans in that series to LA. They blew a 5-0 game in 1 game. They blew that series. This series against Chicago, the final 2 games, the Oilers were the better team, and they lost the 2 games. But they got to do, the little things better. Realistically speaking, there's no way the Oilers will replicate their special teams totals from last year. They're the best power play in 40 years. They're the best combined power play penalty killing. Edmonton was second in penalty killing. Rod, they're the best combined special teams in 42 years. That's probably not going to happen, but they're better 5-on-5. They have a real third-line center. I think they're going to try to play the game. It's funny, everybody's like, I got to play better defense. I got to play better defense. One way you play better defense is you possess the puck more in the opposition zone. And I believe that Ken Holland has built a team that's going to be more capable of doing that this year. It's not a perfect team. It's not on the level of Colorado or Vegas yet. But it might be there in another year, just because they're going to have significant cap space in the summer of 2021. But they're going to be a good team. And one of the ways that they can improve is improving their 5-on-5 play. And I think that's going to be a key to their success this season.
Now, it's funny. Darren Thompson writes in, he says, as a Winnipegger, when I went to visit my uncle in Edmonton, early 80s, he always said, welcome to the city of champions. I still say that every time I go to Edmonton, even though they took the sign down. But by the way, you talk about the rabid fan base in Edmonton. Dave Tippett's never coached in an environment like this. Arizona and Dallas, LA, they just don't have in Edmonton. How does he shield himself, Bob, from the armchair coaches? Because you got a million of them there.
What was George Allen's old line about in the NFL when he coached the Redskins, Rod, when it comes to the fans? When
if you listen to the
fans. Yeah. Keep going. You got it. You become
You'll
one of them, right?
soon be sitting with them, yes.
You're right. So, one thing I'll say about Tippett, I think the combination of his playing career and the fact that he's already coached in the NHL, that experience, he's played 600 games in the league, and he was not he was a better soccer player than he was a hockey player as a kid, but he willed himself to the NHL as an undersized player in a time in which he needed to be tough to play. And he's got a real good handle. The funny thing is, Rod, because of what we experienced last year, he didn't get the true Edmonton playoff experience. Like, Rogers Place is not a nutso building during the regular season, but it's off the charts come playoff time. And the fans have been unbelievably loyal. You know that. You know that better than anybody else because you're watching it from the next province over. I mean, the television numbers, the radio numbers between Edmonton and Calgary, it's not even comparable. And it speaks volumes to the buy-in of the fan base. I've had NHL GMs come up to me and say, look at this place. It's full. You guys have missed the playoffs, 10 of the last 11, 11 of the last 12, 12 of the last 13. Technically, by not getting in the play-in series, it's now 13 of the last 14 years. We'd be full. We know that if the building would be open, and that speaks volumes to the fan. At times, there's a little bit of a catharsis with them where they get frustrated, Rod, and they want to vent, and that's understandable. So that's why they come to shows like mine, which is Oilers Now, and they let us have it once in a while. And I say us because I technically work for the organization, but you know what? I in terms of Tippett, I think he did a good job during the regular season. In terms of the playoffs, I don't think he got the true playoff experience because there aren't fans in the building, and that comes with the territory. Even the media, even the demand for media attention during a playoff series, because everything was done on Zoom, it was a different year. It wasn't typical in that regard, and it changed the complexion of the makeup. Let's hope we get back to that normal experience here, maybe by the end of this season, if not next fall for sure.
No kidding. Bob, you're a beauty, an absolute beauty. What else do you have for us today? What else is on your mind? How's the holidays?
It's all right. I mean, I don't know about you. Are you now? You have an actual studio, or is this in your house? How does this work for your show?
We have a studio, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am not in our studio. I have not been in our studio since the end of March. So we do the show every day in my house. I have a 14 and 17-year-old. They're now at home, and my wife's worked at home for the last 8 years. She works for a very progressive company. So I'm a guy that needs the studio. You know what I mean? I like to see the lights on the phones light up so I can get a bit of a pulse. Call-in shows have now become text-in shows. I get that. But I miss, I miss sport. I really do. I was really disappointed that the youth sports, didn't fight harder to kind of find ways to play. I'm looking, obviously, I blocked slap shots in the nude for us to get back into normal in society and have everything the way it was. We may never have that again. So, unfortunately, Rod, I've had to study COVID. I've got numbers for the last 8 months in about 10 different statistical categories day by day because I have to do it to translate to our show. I hope we get to a point, maybe sometime next fall, where a guy doesn't have to do that anymore. But we do have NHL. And we do have NCAA college football, and we do have NFL. So, the NHL is about a week away from going. We've got the World Juniors, so there's still lots to focus on. And for those of you football fans out there, don't be putting any money on Notre Dame because Alabama's going to pound them this week.
Wouldn't that be an upset? You would block slap shots in the nude at an outdoor rink, Bob. I can tell. That's how much you miss it. And by the way, it came up in my
absolutely.
Yeah, in my Facebook memories the other day. It was a year to the day that we were in Edmonton, and my wife and I were in our Oilers jerseys with Remenda on the Sportsnet set, and it was just like a thump, knife through the heart, man. How much I miss being in the venue. We all do. Like you, I hope it comes back sooner than later. My man, all the best in the new year. Thanks for the time, and keep it up. I appreciate your friendship.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be getting the Rockstar Award. I'm kind of like the piano player at the back. You got some better guys coming up in your show, so have fun with that.
No, you will. All right, Bobby, thank you. Bob Stauffer, longtime Oilers color commentator. Hey, listen, if he retweets the tweet, he could get the Oiler vote behind it. Darren, let's be honest.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.